You didn't press play by mistake. Maybe this is where grace was waiting to meet you again. And now it begins to whisper. You sit in your room tonight, the glow of your phone finally fading against your palm as you set it aside, the ceiling above you, a quiet canvas holding your thoughts. You feel the cool breath of your fan on your skin, the hum, a soft backdrop to the rhythm of your inhale and exhale. You are here tired, but here, and you can feel something tender urging you to stay present just a moment longer before you slip into sleep. You probably won't survive this world on notifications alone, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Leave a comment with your city and what time you're listening. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You breathe, and you let the air enter your lungs as if it is a prayer you did not have words for all day. As if it is grace itself, arriving without your permission, without your effort, simply because you are alive. The world has been loud, hasn't it? Pings and posts, updates and urgencies, all demanding a piece of you, each one, reminding you of how much you have to keep up with, how many things you should be doing, how many people you think you need to please. And yet here, in the quiet of this moment, you begin to notice how deeply you long for something softer, something more real than the scroll of headlines and the blur of faces behind glowing screens. You long for a whisper that cuts through the noise, a presence that is not asking you to perform to impress, to prove yourself. You long to know you are loved here and now, without doing anything to deserve it. Perhaps you have felt like you needed to keep moving, to keep achieving, to keep showing up, so you would not be forgotten in this world that measures worth in how visible you are. Perhaps you have felt the fear of being left behind, of becoming irrelevant, of fading into the background, while everyone else seems to be building their lives, their platforms, their moments of success. And yet grace does not forget you. Grace does not measure you by your output, your online presence, your curated image. Grace sees you in your quiet moments, in your hidden struggles, in the small victories you do not post about, in the tears you wipe away when no one is watching. Grace finds you here, in the soft darkness of your room, with your weary mind and your restless heart, and whispers, you are still loved. You let yourself breathe again, a little deeper this time, letting the air stretch the tight places within your chest that have felt clenched all day. You let yourself feel your own presence, the weight of your body against your bed, the softness of your pillow beneath your head. You let yourself notice how tired you really are, not just in your body, but in your spirit, from carrying expectations you were never meant to carry alone. Grace whispers again, not in thunder or spectacle, but in the simple reality that you are here, that your breath continues, that your life holds worth even in the moments you feel invisible. You let yourself believe, even if only for this breath, that God is still near, still on the line, still holding your soul when you are too tired to hold yourself. Perhaps today was filled with moments of trying to be enough. Enough for your family, enough for your job, enough for the expectations you place upon yourself. Perhaps you scrolled past others' lives and felt a sting in your chest, wondering why you cannot seem to feel as happy as settled, as confident as they appear to be. Perhaps you felt the weight of comparison, the loneliness that comes from living in a world where connection is easy, but intimacy is rare. But here in this moment, you can let go. Just for tonight, you can allow yourself to rest from the race of proving and striving. You can let yourself be exactly who you are, exactly where you are, and trust that this is enough for grace to find you. You let your mind wander back to a teaching of Jesus you have heard before the image of the shepherd, leaving the 99 sheep to find the one that was lost. You remember that you too are the one worth looking for, the one worth finding, the one worth carrying home. You remember that even in your wandering, even in your confusion, even in your doubts, you are seen by the one who does not lose sight of you. You breathe in, letting the air remind you that you are alive, letting it remind you that every breath is a gift, that every moment is an opportunity for grace to meet you again. You breathe out, letting your shoulders drop, letting your hands relax, letting your mind release the thoughts that have been swirling like restless birds in your head all day. You notice the stillness around you, the quiet hum of your fan, the soft creak of your bed as you adjust your position. You notice the way your heartbeat slows when you stop trying to figure everything out, when you stop planning for tomorrow, when you stop replaying the mistakes of today. You notice how the quiet feels like an invitation, a soft space where you can let yourself simply be. Perhaps it is enough to simply rest in grace tonight. You let your eyes grow heavy, your breath settle into a slow, gentle rhythm. Your mind soften its grip on the need to solve, to control, to understand. You let yourself trust that grace is enough for you, that you do not need to earn your worth, that you do not need to prove your value, that you do not need to be perfect to be loved. Grace is here in the soft dark, in the quiet breath, in the steady heartbeat that reminds you that you are alive, that you are held, that you are loved. You let yourself remember that you are not alone, even when you feel lonely. You let yourself remember that God is still on the line, listening, waiting, whispering to your soul that you are seen, that you are known, that you are loved beyond measure. You let yourself rest. You are still here, breathing softly as the hum of the night steadies you. The quiet wraps around your shoulders like a comforting shawl. And in this hush, you remember that you are seen even in the spaces where you feel invisible. The shepherd knows your name. You think about how many names you carry online. Usernames, handles, profile names, identities you shape carefully to fit each space you enter, hoping to be seen, hoping to be enough. You remember the subtle pressure to stay relevant, to post, to update, to share, to signal that you are here, that you matter, that you have something worth saying. And yet, in the quiet of this moment, without a screen to validate you, you feel the soft truth rising within you. The one who matters most already knows you fully. The one who spoke light into existence, who carved mountains and whispered galaxies into being, knows your name. Your fears, your laughter, your tears. You let yourself breathe, letting the air move in and out of your lungs without effort, without rush, without expectation. You let yourself feel the breath that was given to you, the life that was breathed into you long before you had to prove yourself to anyone, long before you measured your worth in likes or views or follower counts. You think of the shepherd walking among his sheep, calling each by name, not because the sheep have done something to earn his attention, but because he knows them, he cares for them, he loves them. You imagine him calling your name in the quiet of this night, not with urgency or demand, but with a gentle familiarity that assures you that you are not lost, that you are not forgotten. Perhaps today you felt the weight of trying to be seen. Maybe you posted something and waited for a response, checked your phone, hoping for that small rush of validation that tells you even for a moment that you are noticed. Maybe you felt the sting of silence when the notifications didn't come, when the message wasn't returned, when the post didn't reach as many as you hoped. And here in this soft dark, you let yourself set down the need to be seen by the world, trusting that you are already seen by the one who matters most. You let yourself rest from striving, from performing, from curating your image to be acceptable, to be liked, to be enough. You breathe in, letting the coolness of the air remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are held in the gaze of a love that does not waver. You breathe out, letting the tension in your shoulders ease, letting your jaw unclench, letting your hands relax, letting your heart slow into the rhythm of grace. Perhaps it is enough to simply rest in being known. You think of the notifications that keep you tethered to a world that is always asking for more, always pulling your attention in 1,000 directions. You think of how your mind jumps from thought to thought, task to task, urgency to urgency, afraid to miss out, afraid to fall behind, afraid to be forgotten. And yet the shepherd does not forget you, even when you wander, even when you hide, even when you feel like you have nothing to offer, nothing to give, nothing to show. He knows where you are. He knows your name. He knows your heart. He knows the stories you keep hidden, the tears you let fall when the room is dark and the world has gone to sleep. You breathe, and you let yourself remember that you do not have to announce your worth, that you do not have to perform your value, that you do not have to prove your significance. You let yourself remember that you are already significant, already loved, already known. Perhaps today you felt like you were too much, too emotional, too quiet, too slow, too distracted, too imperfect. Perhaps you felt like you were not enough, not productive enough, not creative enough, not strong enough, not present enough. And here in the quiet, you let yourself be exactly as you are. You let yourself know that you are neither too much nor too little, but exactly who you were created to be, exactly who is loved by the one who calls you by name. You let yourself breathe again, slower, softer, allowing the breath to reach the tight places within you that have been holding on for too long. You let yourself feel the release as you exhale, letting your body sink into your bed, letting your mind loosen its grip on the demands of the day. Perhaps it is enough to simply be known tonight. You let yourself imagine the shepherd standing beside you, sitting quietly with you, letting you rest without expectations, letting you know that you are safe, that you are loved, that you are not alone. You let yourself feel the quiet comfort of being known, not for what you can do, but for who you are, for who you have always been. You let yourself rest in this truth, letting your breath guide you, letting your mind settle, letting your body soften into the stillness of this moment. The world may not see you tonight, but the shepherd does, and that is enough. You are still here, letting your breath move in and out like a soft tide against the shores of your tired mind. The world outside may have spent the day pulling you in 100 directions, but here in this quiet, you are learning what it means to rest beside still waters. You think about how your day unfolded, how each hour arrived with expectations you tried to meet. You remember how you moved quickly from task to task, checking notifications, responding to messages, balancing the endless rhythm of online and offline demands. You remember the moments you felt your shoulders tightening, your breath shortening your mind, cluttering with lists you could never fully complete. And yet here, in the softness of this moment, you let yourself pause. You let yourself imagine those still waters, gentle and calm, reflecting the light of the moon, undisturbed by the chaos of the world beyond their quiet surface. You let yourself believe, even if only for a moment, that you are invited to rest here, to let your soul slow down, to let your spirit breathe. Perhaps you have spent so much of your time trying to keep up, trying to stay ahead, trying to prove you can handle it all. Perhaps you have felt the silent fear that if you slow down, if you rest, the world will move on without you forgetting your worth, overlooking your presence. Perhaps you have felt that rest is something you must earn, something you can only allow yourself once you have finished everything else. But here, beside these still waters, you are reminded that rest is not a reward for your productivity. Rest is a gift, a necessity, a holy space where you remember that you are more than your output, that you are more than your performance, that you are more than what the world sees. You let yourself breathe in deeply, letting the air move into the hidden spaces within you, letting it reach the places where your spirit feels weary. You let yourself exhale, letting the tension melt from your muscles, letting your mind release the grip it has held on plans and worries and unspoken fears. Perhaps it is enough to simply rest in this moment. You think of the gentle image of the shepherd leading the sheep beside still waters, guiding them to a place where they can drink deeply, where they can find safety, where they can rest. You let yourself imagine being led to that place not by your own striving, not by your own planning, but by the gentle guidance of a love that knows what you need even before you ask. You remember the screens that glow brightly, calling for your attention, promising connection, but often leaving you feeling emptier than before. You remember the constant noise, the constant updates, the endless scroll that feeds your mind but starves your soul. You remember how you long for something real, something quiet, something true. And here beside these still waters, you let yourself find it. You let yourself feel the peace that comes when you allow yourself to stop striving, when you allow yourself to be held, when you allow yourself to simply be. You let yourself notice the rhythm of your breath, the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the soft beating of your heart. You let yourself notice the way the darkness feels safe, when you are no longer afraid of what it hides, when you trust that God is here with you, even now. Perhaps today, you felt like you had to do it all, to be everything for everyone, to meet every need, to solve every problem, to carry every burden. Perhaps you felt the weight of the world pressing down on you, asking you to keep going, even when you felt like you had nothing left to give. And here in this quiet, you let yourself rest. You let yourself remember that you are not alone, that you do not have to carry it all, that you do not have to have every answer, that you do not have to keep moving just to be worthy of love. You let yourself remember that you are loved here and now, exactly as you are, even in your exhaustion, even in your uncertainty, even in your questions. You breathe, letting the cool air fill your lungs, letting it remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are seen. You breathe out, letting the warmth leave your body, taking with it the stress, the fear, the pressure you have carried all day. Perhaps it is enough to simply be here beside still waters, letting yourself be restored. You think about the moments today when you felt disconnected from yourself, when you felt lost in the noise, when you felt overwhelmed by the pace of your own mind. You think about how hard it is to slow down when the world keeps urging you to move faster, to do more, to be more. And yet, here you allow yourself to choose slowness, to choose quiet, to choose rest. You let yourself believe that rest is holy, that rest is sacred, that rest is necessary for your soul. You let yourself believe that the shepherd leads you here, not because you have earned it, but because you need it, because you were created for it, because you are loved. You let yourself breathe again, slower now, softer now, letting each breath be a prayer, a surrender, a quiet acceptance that you do not have to strive to be loved, that you do not have to hurry to belong, that you do not have to perform to be seen. You let yourself rest beside still waters. You are still here, letting your breath ease you deeper into the quiet of this night, letting your spirit find a slower rhythm than the world ever allows during the day. Here in this moment, you discover the truth of the unseen seeds growing within you. You think about how much of your life happens in places no one sees. The quiet prayers whispered between chores, the small moments of gratitude you feel while washing dishes, the tears you wipe away before anyone notices, the decisions you make in silence that shape who you are becoming. You think about how often you feel unseen, how the small kindness you offered went unnoticed, how the effort you gave was unacknowledged, how the struggles you carry remain invisible to the world around you. And yet the unseen is often where God's deepest work takes place. You remember the way seeds grow in the dark soil, hidden beneath the surface, breaking open in quiet surrender before they ever reach toward the light. You remember that growth does not always look like progress, that faith does not always look like certainty, that becoming does not always look like arriving. Perhaps today you felt frustrated with yourself, wondering why you are not further along, why you still struggle with the same fears, the same doubts, the same patterns that you thought you had already outgrown. Perhaps you felt like you are failing, because your life does not look as put together as others, because your journey feels slow, hidden, unclear. But here in this quiet, you let yourself trust that God is at work in the hidden places, in the unseen moments, in the small, surrendered spaces where you choose faith, even when you do not see the fruit. You let yourself believe that what is growing within you, even in darkness, even in silence, is holy and good. You breathe in, letting the air remind you that even your breath is unseen yet essential, that your spirit is invisible yet real, that your life is more than what others can see. You breathe out, letting the tension leave your body, letting the fear of falling behind dissolve into the softness of this moment. Perhaps it is enough to simply trust in the unseen growth. You think of the parable of the mustard seed, the smallest of seeds that grows into a tree where birds find shelter. You let yourself remember that what is small is not insignificant, that what is hidden is not forgotten, that what is quiet is not unimportant. You let yourself believe that your quiet faithfulness, your hidden prayers, your small steps of obedience are seeds planted in faith seeds, that God sees seeds, that God waters. You remember how the world measures progress, invisible milestones and public achievements in numbers that can be tracked and celebrated. You remember how easy it is to believe that if you are not being seen, you are not growing, that if you are not being noticed, you are not valuable, that if you are not producing visible results, you are failing. And yet here you allow yourself to release that pressure. You let yourself breathe, letting the air move slowly in and out, letting each breath be a reminder that the most essential parts of your being are unseen, that the deepest parts of your soul are where God meets you, where God shapes you, where God loves you. Perhaps today you took small steps that no one noticed, a kind word you offered, a moment you chose to listen instead of speak, a prayer you whispered for someone who will never know you, prayed for them. Perhaps you chose to get out of bed even when it felt heavy, to try again, even when you felt like giving up, to believe that God is with you, even when you felt alone. And here in this quiet, you let yourself honor those small steps, those hidden choices, those quiet moments of faith. You let yourself remember that God sees them, that God values them, that God is using them to grow something beautiful within you. You let yourself breathe again, slower, softer, letting each breath be a reminder that growth is happening even if you cannot see it, even if you cannot measure it, even if you cannot explain it. You let yourself trust that the unseen seeds are taking root, that they are being nurtured by grace, that they will bear fruit in their own time. Perhaps it is enough to simply believe in the slow, hidden work of grace tonight. You let yourself rest in this truth, letting your body relax into the softness of your bed, letting your mind quiet the noise of comparison, letting your spirit settle into the gentle knowing that you are loved in the becoming, in the waiting, in the unseen. You are growing even now. You are still here, breathing softly, letting the hush of the night remind you that you are allowed to sit with your fears, to let them be seen under the gentle light of God's presence, to let the heaviness you carry be illuminated by grace rather than hidden in the shadows of your mind. Tonight, you let yourself discover the light in the darkness. You think about the moments today when fear gripped you, the way it crept in quietly during small moments, the way it roared in your chest during the bigger ones. You remember the quickening of your pulse when you saw a message you were not ready to answer, the heaviness in your stomach when you thought about the uncertainties ahead, the tightness in your shoulders when you questioned your own worth or your ability to face tomorrow. Fear has a way of convincing you that you are alone. It tells you that your worries are yours to solve, that your anxieties are proof of your weakness, that your struggles are a burden you must hide. It tells you to keep going, to keep performing, to keep pretending you are fine, even when you feel like you are unraveling inside. And yet, here in this quiet moment, you let yourself sit with your fears instead of running from them, letting them rise to the surface without shame, letting them be held in the soft light of God's love that does not flinch at your weaknesses, does not turn away from your struggles, does not abandon you in your doubts. You let yourself breathe, letting the air enter your lungs gently, letting it remind you that even in your fear, you are alive. You are here. You are held. You let yourself exhale slowly, letting the tension leave your body with the breath, letting the fear lose its grip, letting your spirit find a moment of softness in the darkness. Perhaps it is enough to simply let your fears be seen. You think of the story of Jesus calming the storm, how the disciples were terrified, believing they would drown, while Jesus slept unafraid, unhurried, present. You remember how in their fear they called out to him, and he did not scold them for being afraid, but stood and calmed the waves, reminding them of his presence, reminding them they were not alone in the storm. You let yourself remember that it is not your job to silence every fear, to fix every problem, to control every outcome. You let yourself remember that Jesus is with you in the boat, even in the storm, even in the fear, even when the waves feel too high and the winds feel too strong. Perhaps today you felt overwhelmed by everything you could not control. Perhaps you tried to hold everything together while feeling like you were falling apart inside. Perhaps you felt like your fear was a sign of failure, a sign that your faith was not strong enough, a sign that you were not enough. And here in this quiet, you let yourself breathe, letting your fear be what it is, a human response to uncertainty, not a flaw in your faith. You let yourself remember that God does not require you to be fearless, to be loved, that your fears do not disqualify you from grace, that your anxieties do not push God away. You breathe in, letting the cool air remind you that light can reach even the darkest places, that hope can grow, even in fear, that peace can be found, even in uncertainty. You breathe out, letting the warmth leave your body, taking with it the lies that you must have everything figured out. Out. The pressure to be perfect, the fear of being unworthy. Perhaps it is enough to let God's light into your darkness tonight. You let yourself imagine the soft glow of a lantern in a dark room, the way it gently illuminates the corners, the way it does not demand the darkness disappear immediately, but simply offers its light steady and faithful. You let yourself see God's presence like that lantern, quiet but unwavering, shining in your fears, your doubts, your hidden struggles. You let yourself rest In this truth, letting your breath find its steady rhythm, letting your mind soften, letting your spirit be held in the gentle light of love that is not afraid of your darkness, that does not require you to hide, that invites you to rest, even while the storm still rages outside. You are allowed to be afraid, and you are allowed to be loved at the same time. You let yourself rest in the light that finds you here. You are still here, breathing softly the quiet hum of the night, reminding you that you do not have to hold everything so tightly that it is safe to let go, even if only for this moment, even if only for this breath. Tonight, you practice learning to let go. You think about how much you have carried today, the silent responsibilities you hold for others, the unspoken worries that echo in your mind, the pressure you feel to keep everything together when it feels like life keeps slipping through your fingers. You think about how often you feel like you must control every outcome, manage every detail, fix every problem, ensure that nothing falls apart. And yet, here in the softness of this moment, you let yourself consider that perhaps you are not meant to carry it all alone. You breathe in, letting the cool air reach the places in your body where tension has taken residence, where your muscles have tightened from the weight of holding on. You breathe out, letting your shoulders drop, letting your jaw unclench, letting your hands loosen their grip, letting yourself feel what it is like to let go, if only for this breath. Perhaps it is enough to simply loosen your grip tonight. You remember the story of the loaves and fishes, how a small offering was placed into Jesus' hands, how it was enough, how it became more than enough when surrendered. You think about how often you feel like what you have to offer is too small, too insignificant, too inadequate for the needs you see around you and within you. You think about how you hesitate to trust that surrender could be the way to abundance, that letting go could be the way to enough. You let yourself remember that surrender is not the same as giving up. It is not the same as failure. It is not weakness. Surrender is a holy act of trust, an opening of your clenched hands, an invitation for God to step into the spaces you have been trying to control on your own. Perhaps today you held on tightly because you were afraid of what would happen if you let go. Perhaps you feared that if you stopped trying so hard, everything would fall apart, that you would lose what you have worked so hard to build, that you would disappoint the people who rely on you. And here in this quiet, you let yourself consider that letting go is not losing. Letting go is allowing space for God to hold what you cannot, to guide what you do not understand, to provide for what you cannot see. You breathe in, letting the air remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are held, even when you release your grip. You breathe out, letting the warmth leave your body, carrying with it the pressure to control everything, the fear of not being enough, the anxiety of managing what is not yours to manage. Perhaps it is enough to trust that God's hands are big enough to hold what you release. You think about the moments today when you felt the weight of your own expectations, when you tried to carry every outcome, when you felt responsible for everyone's happiness, when you tried to plan for every possibility. You think about how heavy that feels, how exhausting it is to live in constant vigilance, afraid of what might happen if you stop trying to manage every detail. And here, you let yourself consider that you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to take a breath without fixing everything first. You are allowed to trust that God is working, even when you are not, that God's love holds the people you care about, that God's provision will meet the needs you cannot meet on your own. You let yourself breathe again slower. Now, softer. Now, letting your breath become a quiet act of surrender, a letting go of the illusion that you are in control of everything, a gentle trust that God is present, working, caring, loving, even when you rest. Perhaps it is enough to let yourself be small in the presence of a big God. You let yourself feel the relief of not having to be everything for everyone, of not having to hold every burden, of not having to solve every problem before you can sleep. You let yourself feel the safety of surrender, the softness of trust, the peace that comes from letting God be God while you simply breathe. You let yourself rest in this moment, letting your body soften into your bed, letting your mind release the endless lists, letting your spirit find quiet in the surrender. You are allowed to let go. You are still here, breathing the soft dark around you, becoming a gentle sanctuary as you remember that there is a place set for you even on the days you feel unworthy to sit down. Tonight, you are invited to remember the table always set for you. You think about how many tables you have approached in your life, feeling unsure if you belonged. How many moments you stepped into a room and felt the sting of comparison, wondering if you were enough, if you were wanted, if you were seen. You remember the invisible weight pressing on your shoulders, telling you to perform, to prove to be impressive, so you would not be overlooked. You remember the moments you felt left out, the conversations you were not included in, the gatherings you were not invited to, the feelings of being on the outside, while others seemed so effortlessly connected, so confidently at home. And yet, here in the quiet, you let yourself hear the quiet invitation of Jesus, the one who sees you fully and still says, "Come sit, rest." The one who sets a table for you, not because you have earned it, not because you have proven yourself, but because you are loved, because you are wanted, because you are His. Perhaps today you felt like you were on the outside looking in. Perhaps you felt like you needed to keep striving to be worthy, to be included, to be valued. Perhaps you felt like you could not slow down because you were afraid of falling behind, of being forgotten, of being unseen. And yet here, you let yourself consider that you are already invited. You breathe in, letting the air remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are welcome. At the table God has prepared for you, you breathe out, letting the tension of striving ease from your body, letting the pressure to prove your worth dissolve into the quiet, letting your spirit soften into the grace that has been waiting for you all along. Perhaps it is enough to simply sit down and receive. You think about the stories Jesus told of banquets, prepared of invitations, sent to those who felt unworthy of the joy of the host, who welcomed those who came just as they were. You remember the way Jesus shared meals with those the world overlooked, how He broke bread with those who felt they had nothing to offer, how He welcomed the broken, the weary, the unseen. You let yourself remember that you are one of them. You let yourself know that you do not have to come perfect. You do not have to come accomplished. You do not have to come having it all together. You only need to come. You let yourself breathe again, slower, deeper, letting your breath be a quiet yes to the invitation of grace, a gentle acceptance that you are welcome, that you are wanted, that you are loved, even on the days you feel small, even on the days you feel unseen, even on the days you feel unworthy. Perhaps it is enough to let yourself be fed. You think about how you have spent your days feeding others, tending to their needs, giving your energy and care, often leaving yourself last, often forgetting that you too need to be nourished, that you too need to be filled, that you too need to rest. And here in the quiet, you let yourself sit at the table, letting your spirit be fed by the love that sees you fully and does not turn away, by the grace that meets you in your weakness and offers you rest by the presence of God who delights in you simply because you are His. You let yourself breathe, letting the air fill your lungs, letting it remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are enough. You let yourself exhale, letting the weight of proving yourself fall away, letting your body soften into the safety of this moment, letting your spirit find quiet in the love that is offered to you freely. Perhaps it is enough to remember that you belong. You let yourself rest in this truth, letting your mind quiet the noise of comparison, letting your heart loosen its grip on striving, letting your spirit accept the invitation to simply be with God, to sit at the table, to be nourished by grace. You are welcome here. You are still here, breathing softly as the night holds you, reminding you that you are not required to carry tomorrow's weight while you rest. Tonight, you learn the quiet grace of receiving the gift of today's manna. You think about how often your mind races ahead into tomorrow, replaying conversations that have not yet happened, rehearsing plans you have not yet made, worrying about outcomes you cannot control. You remember the heaviness that comes when you try to hold tomorrow's uncertainties in your hands today, the tension in your chest as you try to prepare for every possibility, the exhaustion that follows you as you attempt to manage what has not yet arrived. You remember the screens that keep you awake, the constant scrolling, the endless updates, the stories and headlines that feed your anxiety about the future, telling you that you must stay vigilant, that you must be ready, that you must not miss anything. You remember how you feel your shoulders tighten as you try to stay ahead, afraid that if you rest, you will fall behind, afraid that if you slow down, you will lose control. And yet here, in the softness of this moment, you let yourself consider that perhaps you were not made to carry tomorrow while living today. You breathe in, letting the cool air fill your lungs, reminding you that you are alive, that you are here, that this moment is enough. You breathe out, letting the tension leave your body, letting your spirit find rest in the quiet, letting your mind soften its grip on tomorrow's worries. Perhaps it is enough to receive what is given for today. You think about the story of manna in the wilderness, how it was given each morning, how it was enough for that day, how trying to gather extra for tomorrow only led to decay. You remember that God provided what was needed each day, teaching trust, teaching faith, teaching His people to live in the present moment under His care. You let yourself remember that you too are invited to live in this trust, to receive today's manna without trying to hoard tomorrow's, to rest in the provision that meets you here, to believe that God will be faithful tomorrow as He has been today. Perhaps today you tried to solve tomorrow's problems in your mind, trying to control what is out of your reach, carrying the weight of outcomes that are not yours to decide. Perhaps you felt the fear of what might happen, the anxiety of not knowing, the pressure to plan for every possibility so you would not be caught off guard. And here in this quiet, you let yourself rest from that striving. You let yourself breathe, letting the air move in and out slowly, letting your body settle into your bed, letting your spirit soften into the grace that is given for today. You let yourself remember that you are not meant to live tomorrow tonight, that you are not required to have every answer before you rest, that you are allowed to be present here, in this breath, in this moment. Perhaps it is enough to trust that tomorrow will have its own manna. You think about how you have survived days you once feared, how you have walked through moments you once worried about, how grace has met you in places you did not expect, how God has been faithful, even when you could not see the way forward. You let yourself remember that the same God who has carried you this far will carry you tomorrow, that the same love that holds you tonight will hold you then, that you are not alone in what is to come. You breathe in, letting the air fill your lungs like a quiet prayer of trust, letting it remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are cared for. You breathe out, letting the fear of tomorrow ease, letting the pressure to control the future soften, letting your spirit find rest in the present moment. Perhaps it is enough to let tomorrow be tomorrow. You let yourself rest in this truth, letting your mind release the endless planning, letting your heart loosen its grip on what is out of your control, letting your spirit find peace in the grace that is sufficient for today. You are allowed to receive today's manna, to let it be enough, to let it nourish your soul without demanding more from you than this moment asks. You are allowed to rest. You are held in the provision of today. You are still here, breathing softly the quiet of this night, reminding you that faith does not always remove the storm, but it offers you shelter within it. Tonight, you discover what it means to be safe within the storm. You think about the storms that swirl around your life, the conflicts you navigate quietly, the uncertainties that wait for you in tomorrow, the moments of fear that press against your chest when you think about what could go wrong. You remember the stress of holding it together for others, the moments you wonder if you will ever feel calm again, the restless hours spent replaying mistakes or worrying about outcomes you cannot control. You think about the notifications that light up your phone, the endless cycle of news that feeds your anxieties, the posts that make you feel like you are falling behind, like you are not doing enough, like you should be more. You feel how these storms outside you often become storms within you, a constant tension beneath your skin, a restless hum in your mind. And yet, here in this quiet, you let yourself consider that storms do not mean God has left you. You breathe in, letting the cool air remind you that even when the wind howls, you can still draw breath. That even when fear is loud, you can find quiet inside. That even when the world feels chaotic, you can anchor yourself in this moment. You breathe out, letting your shoulders soften, letting your jaw unclench, letting your spirit find a small, sacred stillness within. Perhaps it is enough to find shelter, even while the storm still rages. You think about the story of Jesus and the disciples in the boat, how the storm came suddenly, how the waves crashed against them, how fear gripped their hearts, while Jesus slept unbothered by the chaos around him. You remember how they cried out in fear and how he calmed the storm, reminding them of his presence, reminding them that they were never out of his care, never out of his reach, never alone. You let yourself remember that faith is not the absence of fear, but the presence of trust. That faith does not require you to feel strong, but invites you to believe that God is with you even when you feel weak. That faith does not mean you will never face storms, but it assures you that you will never face them alone. Perhaps today you felt like the waves were too high, the winds too strong, the storm too loud. Perhaps you felt overwhelmed by what you could not control, burdened by what you could not fix, exhausted by the constant need to keep going despite your fear. And here in this moment, you let yourself rest within the storm. You let yourself breathe, letting the air move in and out, letting each breath be a small act of trust, a quiet surrender, a gentle reminder that you do not have to be the one to calm the storm. You let yourself remember that God is with you in the boat, in the chaos, in the fear, in the questions. Perhaps it is enough to let God hold you while the storm still rages. You think about how you have weathered storms before, how you have faced hard days and made it through, how grace has found you, even when you were afraid, how you have felt peace in moments you could not explain. You let yourself remember that God has not left you, that He sees you in the middle of the storm, that He holds you, even when you feel like you are sinking. You breathe in, letting the air remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are not alone. You breathe out, letting your fear ease, letting your body soften, letting your mind find quiet, even as the winds of tomorrow's unknowns blow around you. Perhaps it is enough to know you are held within the storm. You let yourself rest in this truth, letting your spirit find shelter in God's presence, letting your body release the tension of trying to control what you cannot, letting your mind loosen its grip on the fear that has followed you through your day. You let yourself believe that God is with you in the chaos, in the confusion, in the noise, in the dark. You let yourself believe that you can find rest even here, even now, even while the storm is not yet over. You are safe within the storm. You are still here, breathing gently as the night holds you in its quiet embrace, reminding you that even when your thoughts scatter, even when your heart feels distant, even when you feel unnoticed by the world, you are not alone here. God is still on the line. You think about how many connections you maintain daily, text messages, waiting for replies, comments, needing your attention, calls missed while you were busy, group chats you scroll through without fully absorbing the constant hum of digital life, reminding you that you are reachable, that you are expected to be present, that you must always be available. You remember the subtle loneliness that can exist even in constant connection, the quiet ache of feeling unseen even while always being online, the moments you stare at your phone, hoping for a message that will make you feel loved, wanted, chosen, and the small disappointment when it does not come. And yet here, in this gentle hush, you let yourself remember that there is one who has never hung up, who has never left the conversation, who has never stopped listening, who is still on the line, waiting for you to notice that you are not alone. You breathe in, letting the cool air fill your lungs, reminding you that you are alive, that you are here, that you are seen. You breathe out, letting the weight of loneliness soften, letting your spirit settle into the truth that connection does not only come through a screen that you are connected to, a love that does not fail, that does not disconnect, that does not demand your performance to stay present. Perhaps it is enough to simply be with God here. You think about the moments when you felt disconnected from yourself, moving through your day on autopilot, responding out of habit rather than intention, feeling the drain of giving more than you received, feeling the fatigue of being on for everyone else while your own soul waited quietly for your attention. You think about the ways you have learned to reach for your phone when you feel alone, seeking comfort in the glow of the screen, in the scroll of updates, in the brief distraction from the ache you carry in your chest. You think about how quickly the comfort fades, how the loneliness often remains, how the hunger for deeper connection persists beneath the noise. And here, in the quiet of this moment, you let yourself notice the presence of God, soft but steady, gentle but faithful, not demanding your attention, but welcoming it, not forcing your participation, but inviting it, not measuring your worth by your productivity, but by your presence with Him. Perhaps today you felt overlooked, unseen, exhausted by the endless conversations that never go deeper than the surface, by the noise that keeps you busy but leaves your spirit hungry for something real. Perhaps you felt like no one truly knows you, like no one would notice if you disappeared, like you are alone in your struggles and doubts. And here, you let yourself remember that God knows you fully, that God sees you completely, that God hears the prayers you cannot find words for, that God understands the fears you have not spoken aloud, that God cares about the smallest details of your day, the quietest aches of your heart. You breathe in, letting the air remind you that you are here, that you are held, that you are known. You breathe out, letting your shoulders release the tension, letting your mind ease its grip on needing to be everything to everyone, letting your spirit rest in the quiet presence of the one who is still on the line. Perhaps it is enough to let yourself be loved here. You let yourself imagine God sitting with you in the dark, the quiet companionship that does not require conversation, that does not demand your energy, that does not rush you out of your stillness. You let yourself feel the gentle reassurance that you are not alone in your questions, in your fears, in your uncertainties, that God remains with you in the quiet, in the hidden, in the unspoken places. You breathe again, slower, now, softer, now, letting your breath become a quiet prayer of presence, letting your spirit acknowledge the companionship of God, letting yourself trust that you are held even when you feel alone. Perhaps it is enough to rest in this connection. You let yourself settle into your bed, the softness of your pillow beneath your head, the hush of the room wrapping around you like a gentle promise that you are safe here, that you are loved here, that you are not alone here. God is still on the line. You are still here, breathing softly as the night deepens, letting the hush become a quiet sanctuary where you can finally let your spirit rest. There is nothing you need to prove right now. No conversation you need to return. No perfection you need to perform. You are simply here, alive, breathing, held. Your breath moves in and out like gentle waves across the shore, a rhythm that has been with you since the first moment of your life, a rhythm that will carry you into tomorrow. You feel the rise and fall of your chest, the softness of the pillow beneath your head, the coolness of the air against your skin, and you let yourself surrender to this moment without resistance. You remember the storms you have weathered, the fears you have faced, the days you thought you would not make it through, but somehow did. You remember the moments of laughter, the small glimpses of joy, the kindness you received when you needed it most. You remember that you are still here, that grace has carried you this far, that love has not let you go. You let yourself trust, even if only for this breath, that God is present here in the quiet, in the dark, in the uncertainty. You let yourself believe that you do not have to hold the world together tonight, that you do not have to carry tomorrow's weight before it arrives, that you do not have to be anything other than what you are in this breath. Your mind may still try to return to the to-do lists, the conversations, the worries that wait for you. But here now, you let them wait. You give yourself permission to be human, to be small, to be still. You let yourself rest in the quiet companionship of God, the one who is still on the line, still holding you, still whispering love into your weary soul. Your breath moves gently, a soft reminder that you are alive, that you are here, that you are seen. You let each exhale carry away the tension, the fear, the noise that has filled your mind, letting your spirit sink deeper into the peace that is offered to you in this moment. You let yourself believe that you are not alone, that even in the silence, even in the darkness, even in the moments when you cannot feel it, you are held by a love that will not let you go, by a grace that does not leave, by a presence that is closer than your own breath. You let your eyes grow heavy, your body soften, your mind grow quiet as you surrender to rest. You let yourself be wrapped in the hush of this night, trusting that you are safe, trusting that you are loved, trusting that you can rest without fear. You breathe one more time, slowly, softly, letting your spirit whisper its quiet amen to the grace that has been here all along, waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to rest, waiting for you to simply be. God was here the whole time, even in the silence,